As social media has evolved, it's also created this view of like, oh, it's a money platform.
This has actually brought on just like a surge of channels.
Making money on YouTube is not a bad thing. It's a great thing. But I think what's the bigger vision here?
You suck the joy out of it. I'm curious. Do you guys watch AI content?
If I've seen a video pop up and I click on the video and it's essentially that text to speech, I immediately check out.
I feel like that's the biggest hurdle for a faceless channel that's using AI.
Hey, welcome to the Video Creators Podcast presented by vidIQ. You know how you put a lot of time and energy into your YouTube channel for not nearly enough growth? Yep, we get it. We are here today to help you change that.
Hello, creators. How are you guys? It's so great to see you here for another Video Creators Podcast episode brought to you by vidIQ like we do every Monday. We're just hanging out, sharing more advanced growth tips and tactics, next level strategy, growing your business and helping you reach more people and change lives. Today, I'm hanging out with Sam and Blake, two of the YouTube strategists here on the team, and we're going to do something different today. How you guys doing?
Really? What are we doing?
Yes.
I'm excited. I'm excited for this
Yeah, you can't even contain yourself there. You look excited.
I'm super excited.
We're going rogue today.
Rogue Wednesday.
We are going rogue today. I thought that today we would just kind of tackle a couple of different topics. And the first one that I want to really dive in here is something that's been kind of creeping. It sounds creepy when I say it that way, but creeping up around YouTube a lot lately. And it's really because of AI. AI has a lot of really amazing tools. Guys, what are some of your favorite AI tools to help creators out?
Well,
I mean, the first one.
Yeah.
Let's both go at the same time.
Okay,
why not
one,
compete?
two,
Sam, you
three.
go first.
So, yeah.
Sam, go ahead.
Okay. So I feel like ChatGPT is definitely the big one.
Yeah.
Just it can be really, really helpful just to like, I know you guys know kind of, the blank cursor syndrome where you're trying to ideate a video and then you just see your cursor blinking and it's just hard to kind of get the ball rolling a little bit. I found that to be really useful working with creators just to kind of like get a bit of a starting point. And then from there, you have some material to work with. And then it's kind of like, okay, we've got something to work with from here. It's a little easier to kind of like mold your script or your idea or whatever it's going to be once you kind of have that starting point.
I'm always interested, just as a side topic, about the idea of the AI images, just because it comes out with like, it still looks not amazing, but I think that's what draws my eye in a lot of times too. It's something different.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
But even still, it helps you think outside the box too. But yeah, go ahead.
Have you guys used Midjourney with creators for thumbnails?
I personally have not. Yeah, I'll let you guys finish this conversation because I haven't dabbled yet with it.
Yeah, I've dabbled a little bit just because I'm really intrigued by kind of what it can do. I think, at least for me, I feel like thumbnails, it's a little bit harder to kind of rely on something totally AI because you have to get so specific. Oh, well, ideally you're getting so specific with your thumbnail that you're really kind of like visually telling the story. So I've tried a little bit to just put in some really specific instructions because you could say, for example, like, cheeseburger floating in the sky on a sunny day or something, and it would like create this image for you. And it usually is just, it kind of misses the mark, at least for me. So I think it's easier to use something more text AI based to help with more of like the scripting and stuff versus the images. But I know it feels like every day there's kind of a new product and like another thing coming out. It does
feel like it's every day, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Every single day there's something new. But I feel like one of the challenges from what I've seen from AI generated like thumbnails and that kind of stuff is really around people and like features like hands. And when you get specific like that, like usually if you like instruct it to give you hands, there'll be 2 hands or the hand will have 6 fingers or something. Yeah. It'll
always
look
fun to watch.
It'll look weird.
Have you seen those like Pizza Hut AI commercials?
Yes,
and they're like putting it's like they're putting it in their ear and stuff.
It's
like
so creepy,
really creepy,
but it's fascinating. I think the one thing I do love about it though is because I don't know, in some ways, as we progress with art in a lot of ways too, it's become so perfect in a lot of ways too. Whereas it's like it's not, so it just kind of makes you like, oh, that's not what I'm used to seeing. So yeah, that was a weird commercial, but I mean, people found it hilarious. It went viral, right? But
Right.
the fact that it came up with it. But in terms of the Midjourney, though, I haven't personally used it with creators. Now, I still look at anything like even like that too as like I'm going to use it as a base reference. Give me an idea, cool. Then let's try to recreate that. Same idea when I work with anything. Like I'll try to get a few different ideas of what I want to create, and then try to combine something out of it. And having even just a starting point to go. That's why people go for walks in nature or listen to various genres of music, is for that inspiration of like, oh, that sounds cool. What if I tried that this way? And that's just what I view AI as for me personally.
I feel like AI is really in its beginning journey. I mean, I know it's not, but it is for all of us interacting with it around the world. And I think there are some really cool advancements being made in like editing softwares that can really help creators, where it's just like removing all the dead space. I feel like it can sometimes remove a little too much from there because remove all the pauses and everything to where it's just a little too succinct and a little too quick, but and not human. But there's a lot of really great advancements in that. And there's a lot of really great AI tech, even in like software like Photoshop, and, you know, everything is getting leveled up, I feel, which is nice. And there's a lot of competition. And whenever there's a lot of competition, that's always good for the users, right?
Oh, yeah.
For the pocketbook, especially. Yeah. And I love all these tools. But one of the things that I think has kind of been a little unexpected when it comes to YouTube is, with all these amazing tools, there are a lot of creators that have created new channels that have now become competitors to a lot of YouTubers, but they're making their content using AI. So we have a lot of what we call faceless channels kind of popping up. And I'd love to kind of have a little bit of a bigger conversation around that today. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's interesting because, you know, we've talked about this in past podcasts before, but like kind of the era of YouTube that we're in right now is even kids today, like being a YouTuber is like the thing that they want to do, like for their career. Yeah. And this was even like before really like a lot of these big strides with AI has really been coming out. So now with AI on top of that too, it's like even more competition and more saturation of content on YouTube. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a good conversation to kind of talk through as a creator, like how do you navigate the space? How do you stand apart from maybe some of the saturation, but then also there are some really useful ways you can use AI to kind of level up your own processes. So yeah, it's a good conversation.
Yeah, I think it's a balance too, because I mean, I even look at the strikes happening right now with writers and all that too, and how like AI is becoming a fear for a lot of people. Yeah. It's so easy to just pump out as much content as humanly, computerly possible, not even humanly possible.
I like that, computerly possible.
So it's just constantly more content. So in the landscapes of YouTube, it's like the barrier of entry is so simple that you can just have it pump out 100 videos for you within, you know, a couple of days and put them up there. And it's like, you know, at this point, we talk about YouTube, you know, being more and more content on there. Now we're having that come up too, which can be, you know, and some people are just relying on that. And I think that it's the perspective of what people think YouTube is rather than what it actually is.
Oh, that's interesting. Why don't you let's stay there for a second. Why don't you define that a little bit?
Yeah, for me, I think,
because I know, let's give some context here, because, you know, Blake is also one of the one-on-one coaches that we have going on in over in vidIQ. And you could work with him on a monthly basis along with any of the coaches. But you specifically have been encountering, as have some of the other coaches, people that are specifically have an AI-based faceless channel. So like, what exactly does that mean?
You know, if I were to take a step back and even just when the whole idea, because I view YouTube as social media. Like most social media to me is engagement, which you can on any platform with the creator, comments, you know, sharing content, whether it be photos, videos. Facebook does it, Instagram does it. It's social media. But as social media has evolved and monetization has been added, well, it's been great for the user and great for the creator. It's also created this view of like, oh, it's a money platform. It's how I can make money. It's how I can make cash. And people are looking at ways to, rather than freedom of expression, which is what it started out as, and building relationship and interacting with people are just viewing it now as, how can I make money? How can I do this? And I view YouTube as personally a place of that. As like I view it as it was meant to be a place of expression, place of building community, place of entertainment, having fun, building relationships, which is what people do on YouTube. To now people viewing it just as, how can I make money? How can I make a quick buck? And now with these tools coming out, making things easier to do that, people are saying, oh, well, I can go, like I've seen it time and time again, even on Instagram Reels, AI aside, some hacks around how can you make more money. Well, let's go grab some royalty-free music. Let's grab a background. We can make a meditation video. We'll throw it up there to make tons of money. It's like, that's the view of what it's become now. And that's what I feel like some people, and I have creators who right now who I'm trying to like, let's talk about this. And they're like, how does YouTube actually work? What is the purpose of the platform? And why are we trying to just approach it from a monetary aspect? And I want to be careful too, because, there's nothing wrong with making money on the platform. I think it's a huge gift to a lot of people, and it's done a lot for a lot of people. And I'm really like, I love the idea of it. But if that's the only focus, then it's like you're setting yourself up for frustrations down the road, which I don't want people to fall into.
It's funny because it's not really it's not 100% new. I just feel like you said, Blake, there's a much lower barrier of entry to this kind of content now with all the AI tools, right? Because one of the things that we want to be very careful is, we're not saying that AI is bad. We're saying the opposite, but we're just saying that this has actually brought on just like a surge of channels in various niches. But I'm curious, do you guys watch AI content?
I don't personally. I think the like I will recognize it maybe if I'm watching. A lot of times I see it, creators will use it for like shorts. So maybe there's like a longer form podcast or a longer form video, and they will just drop it into one of these kind of AI sites, and it'll auto cut and splice it into a 60-second short and add text and stuff like that. And so there's kind of like, it'll make some of the processes a little easier and things like that, which you can see like, yeah, they probably used AI for this. But for the channels that are actually fully run, like it is a faceless channel and there isn't a human there, it's all, even the voice to speech or voice to text is all AI too. I don't really watch any personally.
There's been I would say that I've never necessarily watched any AI content specifically, but the closest I've got previously to this whole surge of things was if I've seen a video pop up around like certain products and I click on the video and it's essentially that text to speech, I immediately check out. I'm like, this is not a real person. I lose all want to be there. I don't know. I haven't necessarily watched it myself. I've seen people shown it as examples. I haven't sat down myself wanting to watch it, but because there's no like desire for me to care about what a computer thinks.
I have tension here. And the reason I have tension is, okay, we planted an insane amount of flowers this summer in our patio. All right. Like 260 plants. It was a lot of money. I have 6 fennel plants. My husband, Michael, he loves eating fennel. So I thought, okay, let's do this. It's an herb that smells a lot, so that'll deter the deer that are, as much as I love them and I love looking at them, they're pests in my backyard with my flowers. So I got those. What I didn't anticipate, because I was really trying to attract beautiful butterflies and beautiful bees, I didn't anticipate the butterflies laying eggs. So now I have these really cool looking giant swallowtail caterpillars literally eating my fennel plants. I hate the caterpillars. They suck. What really sucks is this is what they turned into. Very beautiful.
Oh, wow.
Right? Those are the caterpillars.
Oh, wow.
Eating my fennel.
Look at that.
I didn't take a picture of just the little stumps that are left of that plant. Yes. Almost to the ground. Eaten to the ground. Yes. I let them live for a couple days because I was having friction. Full disclosure. Because I was trying to be a good person. But then when I saw them, I thought they were just going to stop at eating all the, what you would think of leaves, the little ferny things. But then when I saw a plant that was this big is now this big, I got a little angry.
I bet. Wow.
I got a little angry. And then I saw it move over to the neighboring flower plant, and that I lost it. I was like, no, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. How do you kill?
Yeah.
It's terrible. It's not,
How do
that's
you
not my nature.
destroy?
It's not my nature. So yeah, I was very conflicted. So I needed to YouTube search how to kill swallowtail caterpillars. I'm so sorry if you love preserving them. The video that was served to me looked exactly what I wanted, the information. I clicked in and I watched, and I was immediately met AI voice. You can clearly tell that it's an AI voice.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I watched the video because I wanted the information.
Mm-hmm.
But I had so much tension the entire time because I'm like, this is not a person. This is a computer. Now, I know that there's a person behind the channel who is actually using AI to create the content. But for me, I had this incredible tension because as an avid YouTuber myself, and then also just being in all these YouTube communities, I really missed the connection. I don't even know the name of the channel. I would have to go into the watch history. And that's the danger.
Yeah,
right there.
It's interesting because it's like, I think YouTube and Google, the difference between the two is how human and relational YouTube is. And it's almost like taking a step towards the Google approach where, of course, you go to the search bar and search for what you need to find, then you'll find exactly what you're looking for and get great information. Mm-hmm. But the thing that separates YouTube from that is the like subscribability, I guess, when you can make a connection with the viewer and it's like, oh, I want to come back next week because, maybe I shared something that they, a belief of theirs or like a, value of theirs. You kind of like make that connection with the creator. And that's the thing that keeps you coming back. So, I mean, there can be great uses for AI channels if it's going to be more of a like search type of channel. But even then it's an uphill battle, I guess, because if you're going to try to get a community around your channel and like the long-term growth, like I think there's got to be some sort of connection that a human can make with the creator.
I feel like that's the biggest hurdle for a faceless channel that's using AI, to generate the content, because was the content good? Yeah, it was good. They had great B-roll, which was probably created with AI. The information was solid. It worked. It gave me a solution to my problem. I watched almost the entire video because they were smart in where they put the key things. But I couldn't even tell you the name of the channel. I didn't leave a comment. And yeah, I think that's a problem. If you want to grow, there's nothing wrong with search traffic, right? Search traffic can be valuable, but it's not going to exponentially grow your channel. And then I feel like we got to start talking about some of the creator mental health things, right? Because now you're in the hamster wheel of constantly needing that viral hit, constantly needing to create.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if that's where we're chasing, especially if you're going to search constantly all the time too,
right,
chasing those views. I mean, you're gonna, it's a hamster wheel of getting content out entirely. That's going to be annoying for anybody to kind of keep up all the time, as opposed to building a community that you can post something and they'll show up and support you for. But it's interesting. I feel like it comes down to the viewing patterns too. Like, I mean, it's the same idea. The way you search on YouTube and got an AI answers, what Sam was saying, the way I search on Google and look up text answers, I'm there for the information. I'm not there for that community at that point. I think what would draw me in right now to watch any AI content, from the stuff that I've seen, I watch from my judgmental aspect of like, is this any good? I don't ever actually watch it to see like if I'm going to just to relax. I'm like, how is this computer performing right now? I want to analyze this right now. Just that's my aspect. I'm going to
push back here a little bit because, and I know that I caught these guys off guard because I did not tell them I had this experience, by the way. When we quickly ideated this episode, and I did not tell them I had this experience this weekend. I am a new gardener. Okay. I have a black thumb. I kill everything. Now, this time the caterpillars killed my plants. It was not me. It was not me. I promise. So even though I was searching for a problem for a solution to my problem, I am kind of open for a good gardening channel to subscribe to. And I am open to looking for a community where I don't have to feel alone. So even though I came in off search, I am actually in search of that too. But I didn't get that because I was met with AI.
Well, I was curious to ask because like we could probably assume that the channel used AI for every step of the process. So maybe the scripting, the editing, the voice. If they had still used all of that, but instead of the text-to-speech voice, if it was a real human delivering the information, would you have felt more likely to want to stick around since that was actually a channel you were kind of interested in?
I would have explored for sure.
Yeah.
Because I just know myself and my viewer habits. And if I find a value in a video, then I would have explored the rest of the channel to kind of see if there was more for me. But because it was AI, that was too big a hurdle for me, and I didn't even bother.
Did it feel like it had personality at all in it? Or was it just like they were just giving information?
It felt more informational heavy. Obviously, there were a couple things that were missed here. Because there's not really personality, the primal like branding thing. Yeah, right.
There was a channel, what came to my mind for me, because I worked with a channel, did a consultation who was completely faceless, and I wish he wasn't, because he was hilarious either way, but even though he wasn't on his content, he was an older gentleman, but man, was he funny, and like the primal branding was dripping in his content. But like that to me, without us having his face there, having the primal branding and having the personality and the comedic and just the quirkiness is what made me want to keep watching.
Yeah.
So I don't think can necessarily do that yet.
And that's the thing is I don't have a problem with channels not having a face in the videos. I was a faceless channel for years because it was an art channel. What you looked at my hands and whatever it is that I was working on. And there are so many creators that are like that. So there are even diamond play button channels that do not show their face, right? I think of Binging with Babish, a cooking show, right? You see like to about his neck, maybe, or maybe a little bit lower usually. Now he's shown his face from time to time, but in general, you don't see that because that's not the focus, right? The focus is the cooking. So that's not a new concept, but not being a real person and not having a personality makes it so much harder for me to connect with you, right?
Yeah, I agree so much. I was going to say, when I think of like what moves the needle the most for creating a connection with the viewer, I really do think having a face to actually recognize who this person is does make a big impact. I think past that, if you are going to be a faceless channel, the primal branding, how can you make a connection that way? There's a video game that I've played pretty much my whole life. And there's a creator that he does like quest guides, because in this game there's like hundreds of quests. It's RuneScape. I'm probably going to get made fun of in the comments.
I remember.
I've told you about this. This is one of those games I've played like my whole life.
Showing your age.
Super nerdy game. Yeah. But
did you try playing it again recently too?
I did for a couple months, but the thing with RuneScape is you never stop playing. You always come back eventually.
Oh, I stopped playing. Continue.
Good Lord.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm getting off topic here. I'll actually be really curious if anybody in the comments or anybody listening, please validate me.
Yay or nay.
But it's funny because there's a creator who's faceless who has like a quest guide for like every single thing in the game. And he has, I think it's unintentional, but he has some really strong primal branding, and he just kind of like is goofy. And so at the beginning or at the end of every video, he ends it super abruptly and he just goes, "Okay, thanks, bye." And so everybody in the comments in every single video will say, "Okay, thanks, bye." It's just like this ritual for him at this point. And so, he says it all goofy, but for him, even being a faceless channel, you almost feel like you can connect with him, because even when you can get your viewers in the comments kind of saying back to you, like your primal branding.
I love that.
It's such a strong connection. And he's doing, it's almost harder because he's doing it faceless too.
Well, the creator that I had, I was talking about, his was about like opals, like the rock you get from.
Oh, I
from
remember.
mining.
Yeah, I remember this.
Yeah, and he had a and it's one of his Primal Branding pieces. He had many of them. The one of them, he had this like mannequin head with hair on it, and he called her Sheila. And he used to always like talk bad about her. It was just funny. I was just like, this is so random, but like people were commenting. I found it hilarious. I came back just to see Sheila and the comments he would make to her. And now it was just. But those sorts of things are like, that's the personality. And yeah, definitely, I think Primal Branding is almost a necessity too, especially not having, faces for the sake of connection there.
So I want to make sure that we're being practical for anybody who is a faceless channel, that is an AI faceless channel too. How do you think that they're going to succeed on the platform?
I think it'll be important to discern where can I implement some of the like Primal Branding elements or some sort of a human connection in this. It would be interesting to hear, because I feel like some of the AI voices are getting so human and so realistic that you kind of think of the is it Brian is kind of the like typical AI voice that you think of, almost like the GPS voice. Have you guys heard this before? There's like a name for him. His name is Brian. He's like kind of the universal AI text-to-speech voice. It's like very robotic. Maybe I'm crazy, but I feel like I've heard more recently, like there are some AI voices that are like scary accurate. Like it sounds like a real person. And so, I'd be interested to, if you proactively ahead of time brainstorm, what is my Primal Branding going to be? How can I create a connection with the viewer? And even if the AI voice was saying it and it wasn't you specifically in your faceless channel, I think having some of those kind of consistent connection points in your content would help as far as looking long term and trying to get viewers to not only come through the front door, but like stick around and come back, and you can kind of grow that community. So
Sam, since somebody, this may be their first time ever listening to the three of us. So on this channel, go a little deeper into Primal Branding, and specifically what parts of Primal Branding might be a good starting point for somebody.
Yeah, Primal Branding it's basically little elements that you can weave into your content that creates some sort of connection. It's one of those things I feel like when I learned about it, I began to see it everywhere, because you do kind of just see it, in a lot of creators, whether it's intentional or unintentional, but
not even just creators, but everywhere else too.
Yeah. I think what comes to mind is
companies.
Yeah. Rituals is a good place to start. A ritual is basically just a recurring thing that happens. The K thanks bye is a ritual, what I was talking about before. Some sort of a recurring thing that happens in every video can be helpful. The thing that when you don't do it, your viewers are like, are you sick? Are you okay? Is something wrong? You didn't do the thing. You didn't say, okay, thanks, bye. What's going on? You become recognizable in that sense, for a returning viewer. Icons can be really important. If there's a specific thing, maybe in your set, maybe you wear a hat in every single episode. I think of Tim, the days rarely that I see Tim not wearing a hat, it's like weird, because I feel like Tim's hat.
What about for faceless, for icons?
I feel like for faceless, and I'm actually really curious to hear your guys' opinions about this, because I had this conversation with a faceless gaming channel yesterday, actually, about the same thing. Who I asked him, your faceless channel right now, do you feel comfortable having a face cam while you play the game? And we kind of talked about this human connection. And he was like, I'm not very comfortable doing that. I don't really want to. And it's like, great. I'm not here to force you to do anything. You can be successful without having that face cam. But we talked about having an icon potentially. And we talked about, is there a way we could create like a character or like something that is like, like an avatar that is maybe your channel icon. Maybe you have it in your banner. We kind of see it. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with another gaming channel, The Spiffing Brit. Does that sound familiar?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He has like he's faceless. He's big channel, millions of subscribers, and he has kind of this like stick figure with a monocle and like a top hat and stuff. And you see that character in every video, and it is like, that is the Spiffing Brit. That is a Primal Branding icon that represents the leader of the channel.
Just clear that that's made up versus like using something that already exists, like an avatar or something like that. Because then if this really becomes part of your brand, when it comes to licensing and things like that, that's where you want to kind of like say you want to create merch around it or things like that. You want to kind of think about those things down the line. I agree with you there. There are a lot of things. And okay, so let's take the gardening channel that I watched. If you're using AI, have AI create some sort of social icon, you know? And there has to be like some sort of a creation story, I think, to those too, so that the audience needs to establish connection in some way. It's no different. You know, it's funny because we talk about a lot of different strategies and we talk about a lot of different things theoretically, but they apply to so many different niches. And it's the same thing. Creating connection is about people. So how are you going to do that? Because you have to think of this now. Look at it from an algorithmic standpoint, right? You're wanting to have your videos go farther. Well, you need to connect with your audience because the algorithm is your audience.
I was going to say it's when a key part of the algorithm is viewer satisfaction. That is hard to get when there's no human connection at all.
Yeah. 100%. This is what you need to succeed on YouTube. You need to connect with your audience in some way. You don't have to come on to your video and show your face. It'll be easier if you do. But because that's just the human thing, right? And connecting with people's eyes, you know, you kind of, there's a level of trust there. But you don't have to have that, but you got to create connection in some way. So let's talk now. I'm just curious, guys. A lot of these creators, because when we kind of started this conversation, we were talking about how they were starting channels because it felt like a quick get rich thing. You know, it was the easy lift. You know, maybe it's about hacking, you know, their way onto YouTube. You have any thoughts around that?
I think the question that comes to mind for me is, are we looking short term or are we looking long term right now?
Yeah,
that's a good point.
I think the short-term vision and this isn't everybody, but I think the short-term vision for a lot of people is, you know, because, you know, a lot of the consultations and things that we do, one of the questions we ask at the beginning of these is, what are your goals? Like, what are we shooting for right now? And so, you know, I think a short-term vision is like, we're just going to try to like hack this thing or find the silver bullet and throw this into the AI and get as much content out as possible so I can make a buck. And again, it's like making money on YouTube is not a bad thing. It's a great thing. But I think what's the bigger vision here? Are we trying to grow long term and have kind of this thriving channel that will, you know, we'll build this bigger vision that's, you know, even if money is kind of a motivator, we want to have the best success long term. So how do we do that?
Yeah.
That's
like, what is the end?
I'd probably argue at that point, like, you know, we can really look for more of these kind of human connection points that we can introduce. And, you know, how do we lean into our target audience and who that person is and create our content specifically for this type of person out there to build a community. You know, I think that's where a lot of those elements start to come into play with more of that kind of long-term approach.
What would be more fulfilling too? I mean, making money is one thing, but like, is it more fulfilling to have that money or build something? Like, when you cheat yourself out of any, you know, achievement or journey into like a quick success, does it feel good, or is it as lasting as something that's you've done and worked hard for? And I can think of any bigger creators I look at. I mean, they worked hard to get to where they are now. And I'm sure they feel fulfilled and happy with where they're at, as opposed to shortcutting and cheating on a test or something and getting that quick result, that quick win, that quick high that lasts like, you know, a couple days. And I think anybody you talk to who's a bigger channel, and I've heard from many podcasts, the money was fun for a bit, and they found very fast that it didn't make them happy, and that wasn't solving the problem. And that's when they shifted their channels, and that's when they grew a lot more because of that.
Yeah, I think a lot of the creators that we find have the most success too are the creators who are students. And so, you know, as a creator, if you're not kind of watching other creators and finding some fulfillment in what you do too, that's like the quickest way to burn out. I feel like it's really hard to continue working when it's just, that's where the frustration you get to that place really quickly too, when it's just kind of like all I'm trying to do here is just get content out so that I can make money quicker and get monetized. And why is it not happening? Something's wrong. Help me find the magic keyword to throw into my content. And there's just a lot of frustration that can be there too. So really being a student and having some of those other motivators, again, kind of long-term really helps.
It's funny because I feel like when we talk to creators like that go down that path, it's usually a very frustrating conversation for them talking to us because we start asking these questions and they don't know how to answer them. So if that's you, it's okay. You just got to step back and really start to think about what's your overall goal. What's the long-term play here? I understand what the short-term thing is, but what's the long-term play here? Because if you can make it work for a couple weeks or a year or even a couple of years, how are you going to sustain this 10 years later? That's where we really start seeing a lot of creator burnout, I loved what you said there, Blake. You said, don't cheat yourself out of the journey. Because a lot of things, when I talk to creators, when they fail forward, right, they really are on a path of understanding their audience. And I feel like that's probably, it all comes back to target audience. You really got to have a good, solid understanding of who you're talking to and why, and what their deep struggles are. Whether you're a faceless channel or you are in your content, without that and without the human connection, it's going to be a frustrating journey. It really, truly will. It's the root of everything. I feel like also when you kind of hack the system and you're just trying to do the quick thing or focus on the one thing that's going to, you think is going to be the thing that propels your channel. I don't know why I just used air quotes. Somewhere Tim is laughing, but, you suck the joy out of it and for yourself. And it's really hard to create authentic content for someone. And when you create from a real authentic place, that is really where you're going to start to connect.
Yeah. And I would say too, it's important to remember that YouTube's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Totally.
And so I think a lot of people have the sprint mentality of that's all great stuff, but like, how do I blow up tomorrow? And some people do. Yeah. That's great. That's wonderful.
Sometimes it's worth pursuing that. I mean, for me, like when I started YouTube, it was a creative outlet for me, but I had the mindset of like, I hated what I was doing for a living. I wanted to enjoy and I wanted to make money. I wanted to escape the job. I was money focused for a little bit too. But in that journey, I also, as I kept learning, fell in love with more than just what I was trying to do on YouTube. I fell in love with YouTube. And sometimes it's pursuing that path that really opens up your eyes. Like, that's why I learned that, okay, the money isn't for me. Like I could make an average amount a year on YouTube and still enjoy because I love this platform so much and what it can do and what I can see it do for people. And that's when I fell on, and, started to enjoy, how I can help people and creators themselves. But maybe that starting place is not a bad place, but be open to what about this journey you start to enjoy the most. And it might not even be like, I don't necessarily make content anymore, but that's not what my joy is. My joy is helping people get to the places where they're reaching their goals on the platform and seeing them succeed in the platform. I wanted to be a creator, but not so much anymore. I want to help people get to those dreams. So It's okay to start in that place, but be open to what can come from that process.
Yeah. And I would even argue, I think from that mindset, you could make way more money too. If you know exactly who your audience is and how you can serve them super well, like, AdSense is great, but like it's pennies. Really, I mean, if you really have a good idea who you're talking to and you can provide them some sort of service that's going to, if you have a good idea of what their problems are and like what really their desires are in life and kind of where they're at in their journey, you can make products, you can make courses, you can make a membership. I think that's kind of the beautiful thing, merch. The beautiful thing about YouTube too is I think when you kind of come from it from that approach and then you can really have that long-term mindset and get the right people in front of you, you can make a lot more money that way too.
Yeah, I think even realize, just as I add one more point to that, just take a step back and realize as viewers, as people listening right now, that you are someone's target audience too. If there's a creator that you like watching so much, think about how they make you feel. Think about why you come back all the time. Think about the connection you have with them. Odds are they're using that same sort of tactic to target you. So it does work. and just understand, okay, well, if it's working for them, then I can do it too in the same aspect to target my audience.
I feel like this is a struggle that a lot of shorts creators sometimes also, just to kind of pivot a slightly different direction here. When you guys were talking about channels, having those viral hits and blowing up, or having certain video blow up, we have a lot of shorts creators on the platform that, it's been fun to watch and kind of mind blowing that people are literally getting 1 million, 2 million subscribers. We just heard today about somebody who had 2 million subscribers in 2 weeks, because, of shorts really blowing up. And that's great. But the one thing that a lot of shorts creators are struggling with is the monetization aspect of it, because it's not the best on YouTube, to be quite honest. There's not a lot of money to be made yet on that. I really specify that yet. You have to kind of be crafty, I think, in other ways of monetizing your channel and your influence that you have there, right? And one of the things that a lot of shorts creators are struggling with is also kind of bridging the gap to the part of YouTube that actually is highly monetizable in a little bit of an easier way, which is long form content, maybe podcasting even, but very different audiences, right? So like, let's say you're an AI channel and you blow up with a short. What now?
I think that question right there is what a lot of creators don't ask themselves, because it's a very real question. What do we do now?
Yeah. And I feel like, here's the thing that a lot of people kind of forget is, I want that silver play button. I want that. And now maybe it's, I want that gold play button. So my next question is, what's next? Because there's always going to be something else. But is that really fulfilling? And I know maybe we're getting a little deep here today, but these are real conversations that we have with creators on a daily basis.
I've had it this week. I've had it yesterday with somebody. Yeah.
Yep. And just because you get to a diamond play button doesn't mean that you're necessarily satisfied. So that's going to bring us back now around to the conversation of, creators that have really succeeded on the platform. Money was never their initial focus, right? It doesn't mean that it's not important, and that doesn't mean that it didn't become a focus along the way, but they did it because they loved YouTube. So like, who do you really love? Whose content do you really enjoy? Go pay attention to your viewer signals. Why do you love that? And how are you connecting with them? And if you are a faceless channel, whether you're AI or not, really ask yourself those questions and then put that in your content. It's not just about just crafting a viral hit, or a couple that just bring in people all the time. A lot of this goes down to what I really would love to dig into, and that is really a great idea. Because this is something that I feel eludes so many YouTubers on the platform. So many people are so concerned with getting the click and getting the views and doing all this, but you're not. In order to really do that, the people who succeed at this idea time and again are the ones who spend the most time on actually ideas. So I'm curious, guys, because you've worked with hundreds of creators. Where do you kind of look at some of the people who are frustrated, and then you start thinking about, the ideation of a video? Where does that come into play for you guys?
I don't feel like you're going to like my answer. Or maybe the audience isn't going to like my answer, because I'm going to say it all comes back to target audience.
Target audience.
But truly, I feel
you
like
had me genuinely curious there for a minute.
Yeah,
there.
I was trying to build it up there, But I think it all comes back to the target audience. But what I will say with that is the most frustrated creators that I work with are usually the ones who are constantly looking horizontally at the other creators.
That's a good
in
point.
a similar niche, but look at them. They did this type of video and it worked for them, but it didn't work for me. Like, what's the deal? YouTube hates me. And that's very much like a real conversation we have all the time. And so I think
Why can't I get more views and subs?
Yeah, exactly. Or I did this video better than this person.
Yes.
Why did they have more subscribers than me? And I think it can be very useful to look at other creators and gather insights and maybe try things and experiment. But I think at the heart of it, you really need to know your audience super well to know what are they even looking for? Like what type of ideas are going to even help them in the first place? I think that's got to be kind of the foundation your idea is built on.
So I feel like, how do we make this practical for the audience in how to really drill down on an idea? Like, what does that even mean?
That's a good question. Blake?
What does that mean? That's a pretty bad question.
But really, like, you have an idea. Have you guys ever, like, think about this too with the creators that you've worked with? Oh, I have this idea for this. And then all of a sudden they're off, they're creating a title, thumbnail, and they're off and they've got the video going. They've never really spent a lot of time nurturing the idea.
Yeah.
because and you guys both very quickly said, yeah. So this is a thing. So when you have an idea, what I would do is I would kind of, and you know, it's a good one, right? What other ideas does it spark for you? So I would encourage you from a practical perspective to take pen to paper or get on your computer, maybe use ChatGPT or whatever you want to use that's your tool right now. And how can you dig deeper? Like, what does that look like for you guys?
So usually I like to ask the question of, what's the intent of this video going to be? I think that can kind of help with whatever this idea is going to be. That's hopefully going to be a great idea. It's helpful to really think through like what's the purpose of this. So like if it's hopefully going to be a discoverable video that's going to go really far and reach a ton of people, kind of defining that that's the intent for this video. And then I think it's also helpful to ask, what is the thing about this that makes it a great idea in the first place? That could be a big trending topic or something like that. Like, what is the thing that's going to really catapult this? Those are some helpful kind of starting questions to start out there.
I feel like in order to make this practical, we have to kind of help the audience understand what we mean by nurturing an idea, right? Really sourcing an idea and drilling deep into an idea. And maybe you guys can give some sort of examples of somebody that you've worked with in doing this particular thing, because I feel like so often creators are like, oh, this is a great idea. And I'm just going to, okay, I see it. I'm going to do the title. Here's the thumbnail. Here's the story. Let me go shoot. Here's my call to action. I'm done. But what they really missed was if they had spent some time with the idea and really thinking it through and thinking from it from every single perspective, what other ideas could it have sparked? And how could you have even made that idea even better, right? So that it is not just that's a good video. It's like the video, right? And these are the thing that big creators do. They nurture good ideas like Mr. Beast. And yes, I know I'm pulling out big creator names, and I know that the audience probably doesn't like that, but this is the reality of it. It is about taking an idea and drilling it down, and then how deep can you go with that idea to just create something that's so clickable.
I think this isn't just YouTube too. You sparked something in memory again. Back to the songwriting path that I've been into. Like I think of any great song that's been written, and even the songwriting process of my own, like it takes time. At no point, I mean, it can happen. Videos can be made one-off. Can be a great video. Can be posted. Can blow up. It's happened. Same with songs. I know songs that have been written in half an hour. That's been great. I know songs that have taken 10 years to write. But imagine if that was fast-tracked for the sake of getting it out there, or the sake of just like having to pump this idea as fast as possible. We wouldn't have some of the best songs we have today. So the same idea is approached to YouTube. I understand the natural tendency to want to pump these ideas out. Again, any big creator, just because we talked about Mr. Beast, like some of the ideas he has sit in the bank for a while before he even pulls them out.
Sure.
Just because when's the right time to do it? Is now the right time? Is later the right time? And that could be because of a trend too. You don't know that. But yeah, things deserve to be nurtured for the sake of the art form. At the end of the day, this is all art form we're using. And, I know even people who draw pictures who don't want to rush it, because you look at the idea of a 5-second picture versus a 1 minute picture versus a, half an hour picture, various different quality based on how fast you're going to rush that. Same idea with the video.
It's a great analogy. Yeah. It makes me think, Sam, you just worked with somebody, right? A gaming channel?
Yeah, I was going to say, I just worked with a gaming channel the other day, and they are actually kind of in this phase and taking it seriously, which is great. They're like very serious about the ideas of the videos that they're about to come out with, because there's this really, really big new video game coming out, and they're going to cover it and kind of jump on this trend as early as he can. And so, we really spent some time thinking through what is going to make kind of a good idea of like jumping into this trend and making content with this new game coming out. How can we not just make it good, but make it really, really great? And so, we were kind of talking through, like, there's going to be tons of other creators probably making all the same types of videos. So how can you have a unique twist to yours? We actually ended up jumping into storytelling, and like, how do we really tell a good story and make this really unique to you and kind of your vision for your channel and your audience that you're talking to? And how do we kind of like connect that to this really big trending thing to kind of get this explosive idea to hopefully bring in a lot of traffic?
I feel like there's a lot of opportunity when you really spend time with an idea to really capitalize across different types of content, right? I'm just curious if you guys have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, I think what's coming to mind for me is what you said a little bit earlier about like failing forward is definitely kind of a core part of being a creator. And sometimes even these ideas are, maybe there was and I put air quotes around this, like a failed idea, maybe that you tried last year or something, and maybe you're going to recreate or like re-jump on that trend. Maybe if it's a seasonal thing that kind of happens annually, but what can you extract from the last time that you tried this? And again, kind of air quotes, failed, going for it. Like, what can you pick out that worked from that video, and what can you pick out that maybe didn't work that you could improve this time? Spending the time doing that too can really help, again, with kind of the ideation process to make it even better.
Yeah, that's good. I think that, and now I'm going to go back and I'm going to use a big creator just because it's a very obvious thing. I think of like Ryan Trahan, and it's not that it was a failed idea. It might have been initially the Penny series, what turned into the Penny series, but think of all the iterations of that idea and how many times, right?
Yeah.
Because he knew it was a good idea.
Yeah.
It's a prime example of really taking time and nurturing that. Yes, he put out content with it. But eventually, and in that process, tested things probably to see what worked and what didn't work, but then really sat with the idea and came up with something that was completely different. Right? And then look at what happened. That
in mind too. I think one skill I'm trying to retrain myself to have, and creators, I think, as I work with them, I encourage them these days to do, is relearn patience in general. The way the world is these days, there's so much instant gratification. Everyone assumes things happen overnight. Like, as soon as you upload a video, you're watching to see how many views you get. It's like the people that have done really well on the platform have been patient since day one. And there's nothing wrong with like having the motivation to keep going, but they look back. I mean, when you look back on the last 5 years, I mean, it can seem like a long time, but it's also very quick. People just assume it's going to happen right away. But same with Ryan. I mean, he did many different kinds of Penny videos. That wasn't the first one, but imagine if he jumped in the Penny series right off the bat. Like, that could not have. It would not have been of what it is today.
Well, I think what's cool with that too, with the Penny, so the Penny series is a really good example to pull, because I don't have any proof around this, and I'd be actually really curious to look, but I would bet that the first Penny series video that he ever did probably did really well. It's probably a really good idea that he nurtured. And I know, Ingrid, earlier you were saying, spending some time nurturing a good idea can actually kind of multiply into multiple ideas too. So I think it's probably a good example to touch on for him. It probably did well. He probably repurposed that and got a lot more kind of juice out of that squeeze. and really nurtured and became like this whole series, like all kinds of great ideas from that one initial idea that he started with.
Yeah, I've been listening to a podcast of Colin Samir. They're interviewing Dream.
Love their podcast.
Another faceless, well, kind of faceless. He's gone back to it, faceless channel. Who again does it well. Promo branding. He has an icon. That was something that he leaned into. But one thing I learned about him was, he intentionally started his channel with he's always loved storytelling. It was always ingrained in him. He said ever since he was a kid, he wanted to be an author. It wasn't even a YouTuber at first. But he came in with the great idea of like combining something that was working really well at the time and still is, which is Minecraft, and said, how can I use this and use what I love, the intention of story, to build something from there. And that's what it became. He nurtured that idea of what he wanted to create, and use the skills that he wanted to, and really create something new, but use something that was relevant at the same time. That was to me like, and it was combining two ideas, I think, really, really well at the same time. And one thing I want to kind of want to just touch back, just kind of jump back a little bit to when he talks to the faceless stuff. One thing he mentioned too that I thought was really cool. One of the reasons he kept the face and when he went back to putting a mask on, because he's a creator who wears a mask on his content. He loved the idea in tandem to like even what Spider-Man is too. That was created with the idea of like, let's cover everything so that you can be this person too. You can be this character too. Anybody can be Spider-Man, because there's nothing that shows a certain nationality, certain race, certain all those sorts of things. Same idea when it comes to Dream. He said the same idea. I wanted to have this on to like show that anybody could be Dream. Anybody could have this, and that's where the name kind of came from. He said that's exactly what I wanted people to have, is people to do is dream. I wanted to live up my dream. I wanted people to dream. So it was cool that he had a purpose behind it too. It wasn't just an icon, but it was a purpose behind the icon. But again, sitting on that idea, like that was so much more than what I thought it was. I thought he was just hiding his face for the sake of hype, but he had so much more intention behind it. And that shows you when you nurture a good idea, it can have so much more meaning to it.
It is really interesting to me how when you sit with an idea, what it could really turn into. Now, obviously, that's not from a practical perspective. Let's say you're a how-to channel. That doesn't mean that, do you need to flesh out every single idea as far down as possible? If you want to really create hits over and over again, it's what the biggest creators do. Doesn't hurt. If you are struggling with people clicking into your video and you're not doing this, then I would push back saying, what do you got to lose? Spend a little time with a couple ideas, right? I mean, drill down, find out the deeper why. What's the intent behind it? What makes that a good idea? I love that question. I think Sam, you asked that, or Blake, you asked that. What would be some other things that have creators ask themselves around that, around topic ideation? Okay,
initially, what is the impact I'm trying to achieve with this video? So I like to create something with purpose. Okay, how do I want them to feel? Again, that transformation. What is it I'm trying to achieve for them? Also, too, looking at what are the angles? What are the different perspectives I can take on this? Maybe looking at it from multiple angles too.
Because there's the pro side, there's the negative side. There's what else? Other different perspectives.
The budget side, the more expensive side, the do-it-yourself, the professional. Lots of different angles to take a look at it, and that could be multiple videos in one in that sense too, which is interesting.
And I feel like that's really it. Like we're just getting started, and all of a sudden I'm thinking, well, what are the different kinds of stories that you can tell? So there's really unending ways of approaching an idea. Which is the one that's really going to get the click, though? That's the thing to ask yourself, because if you have an idea, this is great, I want to do a how to do this. Well, how many other people have done that before you? Would be one question I would ask. What's going to make your idea a unique idea? And what's going to make it a perspective that maybe people hadn't thought of?
Yeah, what did they miss?
What did they miss? And that's going to be the video that's going to end up going farther, because everybody over here is talking about the same thing and you over here are talking about something different. And all you got to do is just start asking questions. What's a different perspective? Any other ideas, guys?
Well, I think too, if we're thinking about like where to spend this time in kind of the nurturing of the video, if we're thinking about the actual like execution of the video. I like to think from like the target audience perspective. So if we're hoping it's going to go big, like let's think about kind of the viewer journey and imagine it starts with the homepage. So like, how do we make a title and thumbnail that they're going to want to click into, and not just think of one title and thumbnail, but like write down 10 plus and make several thumbnails and like really spend some time crafting that as best as possible. But then you can think through the whole video structure. So like, okay, let's say they clicked in. How are we opening the video? Do we have a quick, effective hook? Are we spending time really pulling them in? Storytelling, how are we going to keep their attention? What's the end of the video look like? Are we actually giving a call to action? How are we spending some time crafting that in a good way? I think those are some like very maybe targeted areas you can spend some time into to like at least give the video the best chance to be shown to people. Because even if you have the best idea, but you really don't spend the time crafting it in the best way in some of these areas, no one's ever going to see it.
I mean, think of any movie. I've never like any animated movie, any movie in general. They script it, but they also have like what they call. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the name. It's where they
storyboarding.
It's storyboarding. It's called storyboarding is what they take initially. So they storyboard the entire thing for animation too. And I can't remember the word. I think it's like Anna something, where they take that and they actually play it through as they would in the video. So they play the entire storyboard as they would in like 24 frames per second, whatever it may be, to get the entire feel for it. But essentially, I'm getting off track here. But the idea is, imagine if they rushed the idea for Toy Story to be what it is now, you know?
Yeah.
And taking the time to craft it. I mean, Pixar is amazing at telling stories, but they take the time to really craft that and make sure they show the right things to kind of portray what they want to portray meaning-wise, symbolism-wise. But the same goes for a lot of creators. They think through, okay, what are the shots I want to show? What's the most important? MKBHD, he knows the things he wants to show about the product before he even films, because he knows he wants to give the viewer the first person perspective of what they're looking for. So he's intentionally thinking of what they want.
Yeah, and I feel like, because just like you were talking about Pixar's process in really having the editors storyboard the video first. So they bring the person who gets the footage last in at the very beginning, which I find fascinating, right? Very much like title and thumbnail is usually the last thing, but we always recommend that it's the first because it's the first line of your video. But really kind of going through that process, and just like you said, Blake, so that you can actually capture the right moments or get the B-roll that you hadn't thought of along the way from maybe a different angle or with a different camera, or maybe just almost telling a different story, within the story, something that you wouldn't have thought of. When you nurture ideas and when you really start to kind of expand on that first, you have that opportunity to make your content, really elevate it, I think. Versus just your traditional ideas. So if you're stuck and if you feel like you're not getting clicks, I encourage you to kind of dig in here, really kind of go deep and see what it is maybe that you're missing. But you got to spend time in order to do that, right, guys?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And, and this is where AI is great. If you want to have a conversation with AI, which I always recommend, ChatGPT is great to have conversations with, but you got to feed it the right prompts. And that's not going to come in a very quick one-off question. My experience with AI, right, is it takes time to craft the right prompt in order to have AI work really in a beneficial way for you.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And yeah. I think that's really kind of, coming full circle here with the AI conversation, is even with AI, you have to take your time.
Every week we love to leave you with a power tip, something that YouTube is doing new on the platform. And this week I want to touch upon new and improved permissions for your channel. So in the past, you've been able to always allow people to manage your channel for you when it comes to being an editor, limited editors, being a manager itself, different roles that YouTube offers. And one of the roadblocks for people have been the fact that they can't do a lot of posting for them in different kind of aspects. And with the new permissions being added, Your managers can now go ahead and create shorts for you. They can add posts for you in the community tab. They can manage your playlist. They can even comment as the owner on your videos for you to help with that interaction. It's great for people who are growing their channels, hiring more people, kind of alleviating a lot of that stress that comes with being a creator. And it's great because it also allows privacy and safety in that perspective for the creator to not have to share their login for information with other people as well, too, to keep your channel safe. And if you want to go ahead and do that, just go to YouTube Studio, go to settings, permissions, invite with their email address, and then pick the role type you want for them. Thanks for watching another Video Creators Podcast. We'll see you next week. Bye.